So here's the thing that really matters. If you want to have a coherent industrial strategy, if you want industry to thrive, you have to take a systems approach. You have to acknowledge that this thriving goes through communities. It goes through all of the systems that we've set up that create our infrastructure, that create our educational systems, that create the supports for workers, that make places an awesome place to live. My name's Heather Boushey. Right now I'm a senior research fellow at the Reimagining the Economy project at the Harvard Kennedy School. And prior to that, I spent 4 years in the Biden administration. I was a member of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, and I was chief economist for his Invest in America cabinet, where I was focusing on how we articulated and communicated the economic case for the president's agenda. And the president's goal was to focus on what we make in this country and how we make it. And so the Invest in America agenda was about making sure that we were focused on creating good middle-class jobs, supporting communities all across the country, through investing in America, through making the game-changing public investments that needed to be made, and to crowd in that capacity-expanding, productivity-enhancing private capital that could really create that economic vitality. And to make sure that we were doing it all in a way where we were doing our part to make sure that markets were shaped to be fair and competitive. What it came down to is, looking at the economy and saying, what is it important that we make in this country? Semiconductors, and we lived through a semiconductor crisis during the pandemic, and we saw how that affected prices and all sorts of things across our economy. They're also really important for national security. And then clean energy. What could be more important than being a global leader in the technologies that are literally going to power our future? We saw that firms announced $1 trillion of new investment in manufacturing across the country in these important sectors. That was happening all across the country. If I showed you a map, there'd be little dots everywhere. But the policies were designed to both make sure that they were creating good jobs and jobs in places that needed it most. So most of those investments, most of those announcements were in places that need the investment the most. Lower income communities, communities where people have less education. At the same time, we saw those announcements followed up by actual money in the ground, actual investment. So over the last year and a half of the administration, you saw this historic investment in the construction of new manufacturing facilities. Off the charts. We haven't seen investment grow that quickly since the 1970s, more than doubled. And we certainly did not see anything like that in the years prior to the Biden administration. So that means that there's all these investments in sectors that matter, in ways that are going to be beneficial to communities all across the country, happening when the economy was handed over to the current administration. Already, we're seeing signs that things aren't going as well as they were when President Biden left office. Now firms are cutting back, and they've tracked about $60 billion of investments that are going to be curtailed or stalled or aren't going to happen. You've also started to see employers laying off workers or making announcements. We just saw Stellantis lay off 900 people. We've seen Cleveland Cliffs. They just announced that they're laying off 1,200 workers. If you're making an investment in a clean energy sector or other manufacturing in this country, with what's going on, you have to be thinking long and hard about your suppliers. And one of the things we know about manufacturing is it can thrive when you've got the community of practice, when you've got different competitors in a place that are all kind of keeping each other on their toes, and when you have all the suppliers that can supply, not just one firm but a handful of firms. It's an ecosystem. But right now, with these tariffs, every one of those manufacturers has to be worried about whether or not one of their 15 or 20 or how many suppliers will go under, won't be able to make it. These firms have to be worried about whether or not they'll be able to get what they need to be able to do their business. And so helping the business community be able to make sense of the economy, to find greater certainty so they can make investments and to be able to solve those larger market failures. It's why I'm so excited to be at this conference here today on green industrial strategy. It's been incredible to run into so many old friends and new friends and these wonderful colleagues who are thinking about these really thorny questions and trying to say, here's what we can do better so that we can create economies, we can foster economies that can be competitive, that can thrive, and can create good jobs for communities in the United States and around the world.